With me, I have, subcommittee. With me, I have Representative Levin and Representative Hayes. We are on a very tight time schedule. The other subcommittee is standing outside of the door. We have about 15 minutes. Things are really tight in this session. So if you want to speak, please come up to a chair, find a microphone, make sure you turn it on before you speak, and say who you are. And you are each going to get 1 minute so that we have a lot of time to hear as many people as we can. We will let you know when your time's up. Go ahead. Yep.
Right button.
The right button, the
Thank
person.
you for teaching me. Good morning. I am here as a lifelong Iowan, 21-year registered and voting conservative, taxpayer, and former chair of our Governor's Commission of Libraries, as well as the current president of the American Library Association. I oppose this bill and urge this committee to consider the bill's implications for local control and the effective use of taxpayer dollars. This bill prohibits schools from partnering with public libraries to allow students to access library resources using school-issued identification and prevents bookmobiles from visiting school property for lending purposes. Public libraries are governed by local boards and funded by local communities to meet local needs. This bill replaces this community-based decision-making with a statewide prohibition, limiting flexibility while reducing the value of services taxpayers already support. Restricting access does not eliminate costs. It diminishes efficiency and increases barriers for our students and their families. Lastly, any age-appropriate concerns that this bill attempts to address need significant work from this body. Senate File 496 did not define that term clearly or legally well, which has resulted in our state being sued by America's 5 largest publishers, and the law currently is in its second injunction by federal court. I respectfully urge this committee to reject this bill and amend it significantly to meet what you're trying to address at the local level. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Chair and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Linda Smithson, president of the Iowa Association of School Librarians, and I am here to oppose House Study Bill 636. This bill would prohibit partnerships between schools and public libraries, partnerships that already work to reduce the barriers for our students. Transportation, internet access, family availability all affect whether our students can reach a public library. Cooperative agreements ensure access actually happens. I'm the teacher librarian in Clinton, and in Clinton, our high school currently partners with our public library to provide teen services. In just 2 months, more than 25 students have participated since we started that program. This bill would end that. It would also prevent school librarians from using public library collections to meet immediate student needs for coursework, research, and reading. These impacts extend beyond high school to elementary and middle school students, including access to books, public librarians who push in to support curriculum through read-alouds, and access to research materials. Importantly, there are 8 to 10 Iowa school districts where the public library is located inside the school.
Time. You just turn on the alarm.
Yeah, would you do, because you have the thing. 1 minute, yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Go ahead, who's ever next?
Margaret Buckton from the Urban Education Network and Rural School Advocates of Iowa. Both are registered opposed. We actually think that with continued low funding levels and shortages of librarians, we need more of these partnerships to make sure that students will have access to quality books when the school doesn't have that public library. The administrative rules that were promulgated to implement Senate File 296 require that there be a reasonable standard to separate age-appropriate content within the library when you have such contracts, and we think that that's probably achieving the objective you were looking for. With those vans, I just remember my 3rd grade son for the first time being excited about reading when he got to bring home a book. So same thing, we have that age-appropriate standard that should be applied. A better definition of that would help.
Hello, I'm Sheila Schofer. I'm from Ames, Iowa. I'm a citizen, lifetime resident, and 30 years of experience in libraries. I feel like this is an unnecessary bill. We should be celebrating schools and library partnerships around our shared goal of promoting excitement around reading and learning. I feel like the bill has overreach and that it undermines local community decisions and, more importantly, parents' decisions. Parents have a right to choose to opt in or out. That's the way these agreements are currently set up, so at any time they can opt in or they can opt out. And I'd echo some of the excitement around bookmobiles being banned on school property. those reduce barriers for students who lack transportation, internet access, or a family's ability to use the library. And I feel like any library professional can tell you the countless stories they hear from their community about the excitement of like when they remember using the bookmobile or drumming up that excitement around reading. So I feel like this is misguided, overreach, and not necessary.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
My name is Catherine Brogards, and I'm with Protect My Innocence from Pella, and we are for this bill. Once again, Iowa is facing a situation where schools are enabling access to materials that have been shown to be harmful to minors. The legislature has already made its content clear. Schools are not meant to be a place where minors can access sexually explicit or age inappropriate materials. Yet while SF 496 remains tied up in the courts, schools have circumvented that law by partnering with public libraries and using school-issued IDs and mobile libraries. This is exactly why House Study Bill 636 is necessary. It closes the loopholes, it ensures schools remain accountable to parents, accountable to the taxpayer, transparent to the public, and compliant with the law. Thank you, and please vote for this legislation.
Good afternoon, representatives. My name is Christopher Rance. I represent the Des Moines Public Schools. As you may or may not be aware, Des Moines Public Schools provides for 7th through 12th graders to have access to the Des Moines Public Library using their student ID. We make parents aware of that, so parents are informed. The Des Moines Public Schools has listened to what we've been told by the state. Be more efficient. You know, you've got to compete, do more with less, eliminate duplications, find ways to be efficient. So that's what they've done. We have 5 different school buildings that do not have a library in them. Central Campus is a perfect example. We also have Lincoln High School. Don't have libraries. So we partnered specifically with the Des Moines Public Library to provide access to a library because we don't have the physical space in the building. So if this bill were to pass, I hope the legislature will give us some guidance or funding or something on what you want us to do if you don't want us to partner with the public library, because we're trying to be efficient and following state guidance, but we don't have physical space for a library.
Thank you.
Melissa Peterson with the Iowa State Education Association. We are also registered in opposition to this bill for a lot of the reasons that you've already heard. If we are going to deny this partnership, we need to come up with an alternative. Des Moines is not the only district that does not have physical library space in all of their school buildings. And so if you are, again, going to get rid of the opportunity for partnership, what is the answer? I will tell you, conversations in this building when it comes to adequate funding for education are lacking and is not going to provide us with the opportunity to build new facilities or create new space that doesn't exist. I would also ask you to take into consideration, we diluted standards, quite frankly, for teacher librarians a couple of years ago and said public librarians who's previously served could go into our schools assuming they have a library to serve in. If you move in this direction, we need more guidance about what is age appropriate, and we need to make sure we're also not violating constitutionality. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Angela Pilkington, and I am urging you to vote no on this bill. I am a 24-year public servant of our state, and I also am, I will put forth that I was the original creator of the first contract that the school districts here in Iowa put forward to have a contract with our school district. I worked with 5 different lawyers from 3 different cities and 2 from our school district to make sure that we were following FERPA laws as well as state and local laws to make sure that the children were all protected when creating this first contract. Since that time, I have sent this contract out to multiple school districts and libraries across the state and past our borders to Oregon, Indiana, Nebraska, Florida, and beyond. So someone had mentioned that we did this as loopholes. When I created this in 2018, there were no loopholes in mind. It was just about creating access to those students that could not get to their public library.
Thank you.
That was all that this was for.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, Jeff Pitts with the Iowa Faith and Freedom Coalition. Thanks for bringing this bill forward. You know, there's been a lot of talk about cost cutting and efficiency, and I think we all know that's not what this is really about. You know, I was just right about an hour ago at the downtown Des Moines Public Library. I stepped inside you go inside the front door, and the first shelf, pretty much, maybe not the first shelf, like there's a bunch of shelves that maybe can arguably be the first one. And on one of those, 2 feet off the ground, where anyone could reach and access, including a toddler, is a graphic novel, comic book type thing, with extremely sexually explicit content. If you don't believe me, Lovers and Haters, page 62, 63. I don't know what the book's about, but I do know, I did look at the pictures. I did flip through it.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Dave Dotton, School Administrators of Iowa and Rural School Advocates of Iowa, registered in opposition to the bill. As I know you guys are aware, there's Iowa code that requires school districts to have a library program. And my opposition is not about what some of the other people are talking about. That's their conversation. Ours is, as was mentioned by Mr. Rance and others, we currently have school buildings who their library is the public library. And that happened before the law was passed a year or two ago. And so there's a superintendent from Ballard emailed me and said, hey, our middle school library is the public library. We built a walkway to get there so that kids would have access to the library. So our argument is, if this bill is to move forward, what is the rectification? How are we going to accommodate for those school districts and allow them to have a library? So I'd ask that you keep that in mind, and if this bill does move forward, figure out a way that those districts who use the public library as their library and have for years, how are they going to make that happen?
Thank you.
I'm Michelle Johnson from the Iowa Association of School Boards. We're also registered against this. I'm not going to repeat everything that's been said, but I want to reiterate that school districts do rely on the public library for their students. They don't have one in their building. So if there are some issues, maybe we need further guidance on how to implement Senate File 496 more effectively, if that's maybe the goal of this bill. Provide more guidance, instruction on what's age appropriate could be helpful in this situation, but we can't just cut some of these students off from a library that don't have one in their public school building. Thanks.
Morning, my name is Brittany Jacobs with the Iowa Library Association. And I would like to point out that there are 544 public libraries in the state of Iowa, over 470 of which serve communities the size of 2,500 or fewer. This bill would disproportionately impact our rural communities. And as was mentioned, there are many public libraries that double as the school libraries. I'd like to read a fact to you. The Department of Justice has reported that the link between academic failure and delinquency, violence, and crime is welded to a reading failure. 2/3 of students who cannot read proficiently by the end of 4th grade will eventually end up in jail or on welfare, as reported by the National Assessment of Adult Literacy. By removing the ability for public schools and public libraries to partner, we're removing a known tool to help not only our hardworking police officers and our local law enforcement, but we're robbing ourselves of an opportunity for community development. This helps us all. Literacy is public safety. It's an important component of our community development. Thank you.
This will be our last speaker.
Then I'm gonna.
Okay.
My name is Kathy Van Monen. I'm the director of the Huxley Public Library. And as a gentleman previously said, the Ballard community has had a 2080 agreement between the school and public libraries since 2003. We have done this successfully. And I would invite you to come and visit. We're 30 miles down the road, less than. We have issued every Ballard Middle School student a library card, and they are allowed to use what we maintain as the school library during school hours. It is the public library before and after school for them. It's not an impossible task. We have done it well. And we have done exactly what the governor has asked. This is fiscally responsible. We're not duplicating something that's just a few feet away. So I come to you in deep opposition to this. And I have letters from our city clerk and our superintendent expressing the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna wrap it up quickly because we got 1 minute. So we're gonna, Representative Levin.
Thank you, Representative Bowden. I would just ask, why would we want students to have less access to books? Why would we not want to engage that excitement in reading? This is a bill in search of a problem, in my opinion.
Representative Hayes?
Yes, thank you very much. I just want to reiterate, I agree with all of you. I love books. I love reading. I have my own library. I'm disturbed to hear that you can't find room in your school for a library. Like it doesn't, you have to have your books, right? We all agree that that matters to all of us. We want access to that. My question is, somebody asked, how can we accommodate? Here's what we have here. We have a public school, right? We've got Department of Education public schools contracting with public libraries. The schools operate under certain standards, statutory law. Any contracts that come into that should also comply with that. I think that's pretty standard and expected. So as we consider those contracts, what should they look like? Should they comply with all statutory law? And so whoever said something about the contracts that you've been doing, where'd she go for 20 some years? I would like to see some of those contracts. What do they look like with the schools? That would be nice to have. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it.
All right, the other subcommittees walking in the door. I'm going to move this bill forward. I have several committee members on education that would also like to have a conversation and more conversation with you all. I encourage you to have a conversation with other committee members. I'm going to sign off on the bill and we're going to let the other committee in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.